Hi students, in this tutorial I want to talk about object-oriented programming. So what does this mean? So look at this picture here. As you can see, we have different kinds of objects here beside each other, and that's the core concept of object-oriented programming. And this means that different objects can actually interact with each other in order to shape a unified system. So we have different objects of different types. So for example, look at this picture. We have, for example, a CD. So this CD is actually of type CD. And I'll talk more about classes and objects later. But for now, just look at this picture and look at these different objects. So these different objects are actually formed from different materials, right? From different blueprints. So in programming, we have a concept called blueprint, which is called the class, and we need a blueprint in order to create an object. So for example, imagine that I want to create a car. So in order to create a car, first I need to have a blueprint, and that blueprint can actually step by step show me how to create a car object. So that's the concept of classes in programming actually. So for example, if I want to create a pen or if I want to create a CD, first I need to have actually a blueprint that step by step shows me how to create that specific object. So when I say object-oriented programming, this means that I can actually create different objects from different blueprints, and these objects can interact with each other in order to shape a unified system. Actually, let me tell you that object-oriented programming is actually a programming paradigm. This is a design pattern. So we use this design pattern in order to solve our programming problems. So this actually style of programming is actually the concept of objects. This style is based on the concept of objects, which may contain data in the form of fields. So I'll talk more about data and fields later, often known as attributes, right? So for example, we have a actually CD. So what is the color of that CD? So this is called the data. This is called the field, and we call it attribute. So for example, what is actually the functionality? So in that case, we say that what is the procedure? So that is called a method. I'll talk more about methods later. A feature of objects is that an object's procedures can access and often modify the data fields of the object with which they are associated. So for example, we have different methods, we have different functionalities that are actually associated with an object, and those methods can actually change the fields or attributes of that object. So I'll talk more about these concepts later. For now, just don't worry about these concepts. Here, just think about these objects, how different objects can actually shape a unified system. For example, imagine a computer. Imagine a laptop, actually. So when you have a laptop, you can actually see a touch bar, you can actually see the screen, you can see the keyboard. So all these objects that are actually interacting with each other in order to shape a laptop for you, so that you can actually work with this unified system in order to actually do anything. So that's called object-oriented programming. We call it OOP, object-oriented programming. Computer programs are designed by making them out of objects that interact with one another. There is significant diversity of OOP languages, but the most popular ones are class-based, such as C#. C# is actually a class-based language, meaning that objects are instances of classes. So I'll talk more about that later, but when I say an object is actually an instance of a class, I mean that, for example, you have actually a car class, you have a car blueprint, and you can create an object, you can create an instance from that blueprint, right? So that blueprint is called the class, the car class, and that instance that you create from that blueprint is actually called an object, right? So I think that's enough for this tutorial, and if you have any questions about these concepts, please post a discussion in the course, and then I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.